Well, blessed Tuesday to you as we come with your daily encouragement. And we are going through First Peter chapter 2, and we're at verse 11. And Peter had already just told the people he's writing to, "You were once not my people, but now you are God's own." And so he says in verse 11, "Beloved, I urge you as aliens and exiles to abstain from the desires of the flesh that wage war against your soul. Conduct yourselves honorably among the Gentiles, so that, though they malign you as evildoers, they may see you honorable deeds and glorify God when he comes to judge." Now, there's two communities that the people that Peter is writing to are beholden to. One is a new community that God is bringing them into, and that is the community of faith, the community of the people of God that is read in the Old Testament. Now, back when Peter was writing this, there were not books. People came to hear the story of God, and so that's where they came. There wasn't television, there wasn't radio, but there was the story of the community. And in some ways, radio and TV and others have replaced that kind of storytelling ability. What if your only place to go was the church? And for many, that was the case back in the day, even up to not more than 100 years ago. This was a place where you were part of the community and you were formed by story. But if they did have a book, it was the Old Testament, and they were to be encouraged by the Old Testament. Now, one of the themes of the Old Testament is exile, being away from the place called home. And there are many times the people of Israel, God's chosen people, were in exile. They were in exile in Egypt. They were away from the promised land. They were exiled during the time they were in Babylon and other places. And some had argued, even in the later of the prophets, that the people of Israel hadn't completely come home yet. And so it was the call to be different from the world around them. And so Peter is telling this Gentile crowd who had become believers, you now are part of the new exile, away from the home that we are marching through. And so, along with that theme of exile is wandering in the wilderness. And part of that is the test of one's character. But there was a second place that the people that Peter's writing to were in exile, and that was fellow Gentiles. Many of them had thought that these believers had adopted foreign gods or foreign deities, that they had gone out of the way of the great culture that they were inheriting from Greece and Rome. And a lot of that culture allowed for them to have many gods and goddesses and many stories. But now these were new stories. Now, the morality of the people was very similar, whether you were in Greece, Rome, and the people of Israel. There was a sense of what right and wrong was. In fact, many of the Christian philosophers adopted some of the teachings of Aristotle, among others of the Greeks who had high ideals. Of course, it was known that it was very few people that lived up to him. That included the people of God in the Old Testament. Just read some of the prophets. You have people who are having difficulty with seeing whether these were God's people because of how they're acting. And so that's why Peter is telling this group of people that are in exile from two different communities, their birth community of Gentiles, their adopted community of people of God living in exile. As you are aliens and exiles, abstain from the desires of the flesh that wage war against your soul. Conduct yourselves honorably among the Gentiles, because they're living in the Gentile land, so that though they malign you as evildoers, they may see the honorable deeds and glorify God who has come to be a judge. You see, that's the good news, is that God, through the Holy Spirit, can give us a new way to live, a new way to live even in the midst of the world, to be of the world, to be in the world, but not of the world. For we have been born again, born from above. We are a people set apart. And so that encourages us to live differently in this world. God bless you today. We trust that these continue to be words of encouragement. Take care. God bless. We'll see you next time.